Most people actually dream about owning a business. Today, I wanted to have Mike sit down with us because he has been able to take over a boomer-based business.
I have described this last 2 years as bar none the most challenging, sobering, humbling, anything I've done professionally.
We're going to talk a lot about what it looks like to buy a business, the before, the after.
The jobs, I think, inside you kind of think, if today got bad enough, I'll leave. But when you buy a company and you personally guarantee a loan, bad days can't result in that. They result in you going to figure it out.
I have had 4 business partners. One of them was a success.
Tension is not inherently bad. Mm-hmm. Your inability to manage that tension is catastrophic.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you had taught yourself 10 years ago, and what can you still do about it?
Don't wait on it. Go for it.
Welcome back to another episode of Good Business. Guys, I am pumped to have my new friend, Mike Fransen, here, and my co-host, Luke Frazier. We're going to talk a lot about what it looks like to buy a business and the before, the after. And, you know, most people actually dream about owning a business. Today, there's this spirit, especially in high schoolers and college students, and they're thinking about college. Do I go to college? Do I actually start my career as an employee, or do I want to become an employer? And so we're surrounded by this idea of entrepreneurship. And today, I wanted to have Mike sit down with us because he has been able to take over a boomer-based business. And that's what everyone's talking about, is all the boomers are retiring and they're ready to sell their businesses. And so I'd love to just have this entire conversation circle around, what has it been like? What did you learn? And what do you recommend to other folks considering? But the very first question I want to start out with is one that's a little bit more heart-focused, a little bit more tied to values, tied to your character, tied to this conversation of, am I even ready to buy a business? And so this is what I put together, and it might be awkward, is probably the best way to say it, but I'm all about getting to the heart of the story. I don't want to go surface level. For better or worse, most of my friendships are very like, we're going to talk about the real stuff. We're not going to talk about the weather. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the real stuff today. So Mike, buying a business is exciting on paper. It's honestly, it's a thrill. I've done it before. And in real life though, that is a huge step outside of comfort. If you've been in an employee role where maybe you were just guaranteed a paycheck, and now you are taking this leap of faith where there's no safety net, there's no guaranteed paycheck coming on the 1st or the 15th, and you're risking your savings, you're risking your relationships, your reputation, even your family's well-being. That is a huge risk. And I'd like if you can just take me back to the moment where you and your business partner, Chad, signed the papers. What were you feeling in that moment? And was it relief? Was it fear? Was it both? Was it anything outside of just this immense weight of excitement? I just love to know where you were in that moment.
Yeah, boy, I haven't thought about that for a while. It's a lot of the emotions you described. I'll back up just a little bit and say, because I think this gives some context for everything you just
go for it.
Set us up with. So I grew up Southern Oregon. I'm a teacher's kid. So my dad was a high school math teacher. My mom was a preschool teacher. And I kind of grew up probably like a lot of people who may see this and thought my dad taught at the same school for 30 years. My mom taught at the same school for 30 years. If you're a dutiful employee and that's the way you're a one-trick pony.
Guaranteed a pension, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So definitely not an entrepreneurial family, which I've now come to understand. It does just emotionally and mentally kind of, I would say, put you at a disadvantage because you're just emotionally and mentally not really in a place where you even know how to process.
You're not prepared. Yeah.
You're not prepared.
Yeah.
And then went off college. I was in the Army for 5 years. Again, not known to be an entrepreneurial place.
Get in line.
But I think back then, even being deployed to Kosovo, there was stuff that just inherently drove me crazy and made me want to. I remember when I got to Kosovo, the guy that handed it off to me, because his literal 2-minute handoff was, "Don't worry, Mike, I was working for NATO, so I'd not done any formal training for this, and I'm in charge of fund management for all the engineering projects in Kosovo, working with all the European colonels." And he goes, "Don't worry, just fake it till you make it." And I'm like, wow, I've got a meeting like in 5 minutes and you're gone on a bus going home, which is awesome. And so from there, I remember thinking, okay, what would I do to make the next handoff, which will be mine to the next person, better? Not earth-shattering. I made a book, I made a pamphlet, you know, and so that just kind of created a series of actions and activities that I was doing that I'm not claiming were just wildly entrepreneurial, but it was just always like, let's make this better. Let's do something different. Go into corporate, or, you know, go to the Army, go to business school, again, really geared at the time. There was no ETA entrepreneurial classes.
Sure.
It was very corporate oriented at the time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that was my formal training, and then straight to a REIT, very formal, rigid real estate construct. But again, still had kind of that urge, but I'm a risk adverse guy. Even still, I'm still playing within very safe places. Like,
where are you on the DISC profile? Do you know? Or Enneagram or any of those personality profiles?
On architect, you know, within the cultural index world. So I'd looked, you know, that puts you kind of probably more in that space of fractional, you know, president, CEO type, but you're still very much structure oriented.
Brilliant.
And so really, I would say probably like a lot of people, a combination of personal events, the ages of our daughters, and me getting sucked up in that corporate machine. Chad and I, we introduced ourselves a couple times this week to people as corporate refugees. So, you know, where you kind of, and I think this we've learned, you know, we're part entrepreneurs and part like corporate therapists, where everybody we left behind, you know, in some ways to go, hey, you're the crazy guys that wrecked your LinkedIn account to go do this thing. Like we had a pack, like we were all going to keep going and you tell us about it.
Wow.
So scared to death. I mean, you know, we're talking as if we've made it. We are very much work in progress. Like I probably woke up this week scared at least twice. Yeah. And trying to come to terms with that feeling, come to peace with, you know, at least for me, God leading and us following, you know, day by day. But that day we signed, you know, you're personally guaranteeing a loan, you're doing a bunch of things you've never done. You can't, and we can talk about it, you know, but that partnership component is got some real density to it. Right. You know, jobs, I think, at least my philosophy, or not, inside you kind of always think, if today got bad enough, I'll leave. I mean, I'll go find another job. But when you buy a company and you personally guarantee a loan and you have partnership agreements and bad days can't result in that. They result in you go figure it out.
Escape is the nuclear option.
Right. And by the way, the bad days are coming.
Oh, absolutely.
They show up. They show up.
Yeah, there's no choice.
Yeah. Wow. Oh man, I love that backstory. So thank you, Mike, for that. I want to double click on something you said about partnerships, because I mean, I'll be honest, I have had 4 business partners across a variety of businesses. One of them was a success. The other 3 ended up in that nuclear option. And it wasn't because of a lack of trying. It was, I mean, personally, I would say it was a lack of expectation management. It was a lack of preparation. It was a lack of communication. And I do think it was a lack of integrity in those 3 failures. But I'd love to know for you, when you were thinking and having the initial conversations about, do we do this? What was the moment that you were like, this partnership could work?
So we met probably years ago in the commercial real estate space.
Okay.
And in some ways, what you look back and there's always things that don't totally make sense at the time. And you're like, oh, wow, that's the way that was playing out. And so we in some ways met in different stages of our own career crisis of sorts and connected, like heart connection.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're two corporate guys working it through. Somebody gave you my name because they thought I could be encouraging and vice versa. So we'd had that loose connection, all the way around. And then for various reasons, both get out of, I want to be careful how I say it, because I had a fantastic experience in corporate. So it's not corporate's bad, entrepreneurship, it's seasons. I call it seasons. And we had ended up reconnecting, obviously 23, and realized neither one of us just felt like going back into that world was the right play. But frankly, if you're coming out of that world, we both realized, quite honestly, neither of us probably had the stomach or the courage to do it on our own. And we go, but you have a complementary. He was a CFO at a organization. I'd been COO. So we had the complementary technical papered skill sets. And I, frankly, wouldn't have pulled the trigger on my own. If I'm being honest, I needed to feel that there was somebody else along for the ride. I needed to, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome or whatever. You're just terrified. You're like, okay, I've read the HBR book. I've read all the books everybody told me to.
Yeah.
These are really smart people. They don't have one. They don't have one for dummies yet, apparently. So, I think for Chad, and then really for us, we said, what about what you came from was inherently problematic? And it goes back to your comment about integrity in some ways. And I'm not saying we work for places without that, but we worked around and with people potentially that, that
integrity was a loose word.
Yeah. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. And we're talking about a really interesting inflection point in society. I mean, a lot going on. We're coming out of COVID. We're coming out of just all kinds of things in society and business that everybody's trying to sort out. And so that just makes that pairing amped up even more. And so we attacked it really like a marriage and said, look, we're both first and foremost anchored in our faith. Yeah. And then it's family. And work is going to be on that list.
Right.
But we're going to try to avoid the trap of letting this be the end-all be-all that just consumes us the way, in some ways, our former jobs had tended to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. When I think about that, I mean, I know it's a part of your process and framework. We use EOS, and as I think about it from a business relational aspect, which I don't know if they necessarily talk about it this way often, but it sort of solves, like, it's like going through EOS, like going through premarital counseling. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
In a sense, it's like, are you going to be more visionary, or are you going to be more integrator, or are we going to cross paths and, butt heads? And that's okay if you are, as long as we know we are.
Yeah.
So it sounds
eyes
like
wide open.
Right. So it sounds like you guys kind of wrestled through that as I know you're still working on a piece of EOS, but as you think about it as the construct of visionary, integrator, how did you see those, Chad coming from CFO, you coming from COO background, how did you see it sort of playing out in your current kind of organizational structure, the mess and all, but like how did you guys sort of fit into those pieces and play that out?
Yeah, I would say work in progress first and foremost. So I would say when you haven't been in that world, there's so much definition almost to a fault where you come from. Okay, we got this opening, we've got this role, you've got this skill set. Get to work, we'll tweak it if we need to. These are the people that work for you. These are the jobs they're supposed to do. Yeah. And then you come into this world and it's wide open.
All wide open.
And I've, in hindsight, we've ended up with what I think God intended for us to have. But I always say we probably ended up something closer to a startup than a company that we bought, which a little bit unexpected. So you end up having to define stuff and learn stuff. Yeah. And I would say this is something we continue to tweak and learn, because when you've been type A, let's just go get it done. Then you wake up one day and you've brought in a few people to the organization, and then you have a few others, and you go, wait a minute, we're basically two bosses. And gravitating naturally to the things we're more comfortable with. but potentially at the risk of frustrating those people, that work for you.
I think back to an episode of The Office where Michael Scott and Jim, they're now co-managing, and it was such an accurate picture of what it looks like when you put two people into the same role, and it's just a nightmare for everybody. And I love that you guys have been so intentional in your partnership to address the elephant in the room, because most people just go in eyes.
It's all exciting.
It's just butterflies and rainbows and no, we love each other. There's no way anything could go wrong. I looked it up. The average failure rate of business partnerships, according to the Harvard Business Review, in 2007 was 60 to 70%. And it has increased as of 2024 by 43%.
Wow.
It's a major failure rate. And I find it very interesting because according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average failure rate of businesses in general by their 10-year mark is 65%. So if the average failure rate of partnerships is somewhere between 60 and 70%, and the average failure rate of businesses is somewhere between 60 and 70%. I do find that correlation. Right. So I'm not saying that you should not have a partner, because like I said, 1 out of 4 for me was really successful. And that was early on. I went in with the sunshine, rainbows, all that kind of stuff. And the one success that I had in that business partnership was mutual respect and for our various roles. So Daniel Colvin was my business partner, and we sold our business because frankly we didn't want to do it anymore. But we sold it, and that's a success because we are still friends today. It's fantastic. But yeah, Daniel Colvin, excellent creative, like absolutely beautiful visual storyteller, and great trainer, great ability to lead a team of creatives. And I came in with the business structure, the EOS, the integration component. And I think that's why it was a success. And that's why we didn't butt heads. And when we did have a disagreement, we talked about it.
Right. There's a framework for
we
the
even
conversation.
had this little corner booth at Black Walnut Cafe off of Louetta Road in Houston. And that's where we would have our come to Jesus meetings. And it was great because we knew, hey, we're in it to win it for each other. And so with the issues that are plaguing so many businesses today, I'd love to get your feedback on those stats that I shared. 60 to 70% of failures. You touched on it a little bit, but I want to circle around on that. Why do you believe businesses fail in the 60 to 70% range in that first 10 years? What do you believe that number one reason is as you've walked this road and as you've faced issues?
And there's so much coming at you. I think, the one thing when you come from corporate, and again, not everybody comes from it, there's always somebody that can do something in your sphere that's not you. Okay, I've got this issue. I can kind of talk through it, and then I'm ultimately going to pass it off, or I'm going to do something else. And then you get into this world, and you're like, there is nobody else. That's us. That's us. So there's this inherent, and at least related to the partnership, and then as it relates to the business, I kind of describe it as a little bit like, I think most of our experience in marriage is tension is not inherently bad. Your inability to manage that tension is catastrophic.
Yeah.
And so I think, because we had a call the other day, I don't think it was with you, Luke, but somebody, we were trying to figure out some stuff, and it'd been a long week, and they said, well, how long you guys been a partner? How long? We're like, oh, about 2 years now. And they're like, that's amazing. We're still together. And we were all scared, like, wow, I guess. But
wow, right.
There's so many ways. I have described this last 2 years as bar none the most challenging, sobering, humbling anything I've done professionally.
Yeah.
Because the emotional roller coaster is so intense. And I think with that intensity, I'm typically the guy that, went to West Point. I love the term gritty. I love, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If I'm being really honest, I probably thought about quitting more. Not going to do it, but I think that feeling people act on, right? I mean, that's what we're describing is somebody going, I don't have it. This isn't working.
Pressure's too hard.
Today I got screamed at, and I've got to turn around tomorrow and go resolve that. And, there's just the intensification, I feel like, of everything that I've ever had emotionally. I almost call it dog years. 2 years of this has been worth probably 7 each. In good and bad ways. It's not bad all the time at all.
Yeah.
Any means.
I often feel like in business, it's like the crew on Apollo 13. You're in space, and outside of that spaceship, you die. Like there's no surviving outside of that spaceship. And sometimes you have oxygen tanks explode on you, and you still have a mission, you still have a purpose. And sometimes that mission and purpose has to change when things go wrong. Because when the crew of Apollo 13 took off, they were sunshine and rainbows headed to the moon. And they get into space, and all of a sudden everything goes wrong. And their mission changed, their purpose changed, because it was no longer, how do we get to the moon? It was, how in the world do we survive this? How in the world do we make it home to our families? And when you see the leadership, and I love the Tom Hanks version of Apollo 13, it's so good. I know it's probably more sensationalized than it was, but I mean, I'll be honest, it's pretty dramatic to get stuck in space and not know how you're going to get home. And so that team was unified in that desired mission because it was all related to their survival. And so I feel like business partnerships are kind of in the same boat. It's like you're in this spaceship of a business, and if things go wrong, there's no exit plan. Like you've got to fix it before you can get out. Like you can, if you do just try to get out, everybody's going to die. The business will fail. You will go bankrupt. You will lose your shirt. And so I actually like the pressure and that feeling of not having an out. Because I think it's kind of like if you're, I don't know, running, and I'm not a runner, but I try to, and I'll be running down the road, and I'm like, my lungs are burning, and I could just stop and nothing will happen. There's no risk to me stopping. But if you're swimming in the ocean and you stop, it's a very different scenario. And so as business owners, there's this unspoken feeling that I don't think employees understand because of the fact that there's no safety net. So when you think about, and I'd love to get into the business that you bought and how you decided. But when you think about just the things that you wish you had prepared for, because you said the past 2 years have been challenging. What do you wish you had known 2 years ago that you now know that you could have prepared for?
A little bit of a slide away. I'd say just to kind of reassure yourself, and it's along the lines you just talked about, is you can get through it. So it's the unknowns, and when you've come and you're type A and you're like, I like control and I like certainty, you're not going to know everything you need to know. It is that due diligence process and everything about it is, would I ask a couple, would Chad and I probably think, well, we should ask this question or whatever. I would like to think between the two of us, he is a far more detailed, he's the one that really gets into that. But between the two of us, we would have asked that. There's some very nuanced things I think right now between that boomer world and seller world and buyer world and what I'll call the bid-ask spread. Anything you can do to kind of bridge that gap, make sure you really understand as much you can what you need to know about that owner, how that transition is going to go down, what might set you back. And again, I would say that first year we learned some things that would never have showed up on underwriting that make you a little flat was actually a miracle. We wanted growth, but considering where it could have gone, flat ends up being its own, but you are able to establish a framework. So I think, in some ways, the answer is less about something concrete than it is just getting yourself psychologically ready for boom. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of what is out there and people may think is, I'm going to trade off the Monday through Friday 8 to 5 for 3 days a week lifestyle so I can go paddleboard on Friday. And I have heard that more recently, where the failure rate for some of this new wave is actually, I haven't necessarily seen the stats going up, because that is the assumption.
Yeah.
I'm
That
just
is quickly
I'm
wrecked.
buying a profitable business and we're going to be okay.
right.
Yeah, and to that end, there's a firm that evaluates M&A transactions, and on average, 90% of businesses that are acquired from the original founder fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and to that end, it's the culture changes.
Right.
The very first company I sold, I mean, I poured my heart and soul into that business, and I wanted the new owner to feel the same way. And unfortunately, I've heard not good things about how that business is doing ever since I sold it. And it's because the culture changed, that heart changed. So anyway, we could talk about this specific topic forever, but I'd love to know, and Luke, I'm dominating the conversation. Please, just interrupt me.
Well, I think we're going to ask the same question, because this is all really cool. And I think there are plenty of people who they're very curious about building partnerships and vetting, and buying a boomer business is very exciting right now. How did you land on stucco?
We ask ourselves that
every day. And more specifically, as you're evaluating, what made you feel like, this is the one? So there's just a funny, corporate to stucco is a pretty interesting, good story. But in your actual evaluations, what made it make sense?
Every book, you read all these books and they all say the same thing: is unsexy, forgettable, high margin business.
Everyone says buy HVAC right now.
And then you get into the
things.
search, and what do you do? Like, we're both the exact same age, we both have kids, and there was like a 10 crumble unit franchise for sale in Houston. And we're like, oh man, our kids are going to love us. We won't actually have to pay $20 a cookie or whatever it is anymore. We'll charge that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we kind of go, okay, that's funny, let's move on. Because you realize, okay, and not that it's not a good business, but that's not what we're after here. And so
restaurants have an even higher failure rate.
Right.
So
let alone a cookie fat.
That's right. So I think the important thing for us, which again may be valuable to somebody that's thinking about it, is we had to agree, and we've talked about the partnership, is say, what are we pursuing? We both had, again, kids in school ages. Mine are a little older, his are a little younger, in good situations, which in this day and age you can't take for granted. So it was going to have to be Houston based. If you're coming out of B school, you can chase anything you want, anywhere you want. Technically, we just weren't at that phase of life. We avoided technology. Just because that was not our past, and we thought, man, we get creamed in this. We avoided food and beverage for the same reason. Not that they're not good, they weren't. We didn't. Guys at our age and where we're at, the learning curve is going to be too steep. And then within that box, we had decided, we got new partnership, we got whatever. Let's bracket the size. We've not fundraised or done any of that before. That's got its own learning curve. For this first one, let's just go make good use of the SBA and let's just keep it simple. And so, and then I joke, it sounds so simple, we went shopping that first summer. And then we bracketed the timeline. We said, I had already been doing a lot of things on my own, and so I needed to get really going financially sooner than later. We didn't have the normal 18 to 24 months you hear and search funds and everything else. So we started that search in earnest probably June-ish, July of 23. Ended up closing into September of 23, which again, we now look back and go, that felt like an eternity.
I mean, most M&A transactions alone take 6 months from initial offer, LOI, till closing. That's crazy fast.
So again, we now look back and go, God was working with us, because there's no, that is unusual. It does seem like. And we probably looked hard at 40, and a lot of it all through business brokers. So again, very much vanilla. That's a tough process. Brokers have very varying ranges of knowledge. sellers, you kind of forget. These are not people that are trading baseball cards and sell 20 a day. For most of them, it'll be their first and last sale ever.
Yeah.
Especially on the boomer front. So there's a lot of inexperience, and we were first-time buyers.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of step back and look at that and you go, man, this is going to be challenging. This is just inherently, if you put all those facts pieces together. And so a lot of the underwriting was less about the business than the ownership characteristics and how ready they were to sell.
So it's not like you were just like, we're going to go find a construction business.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. We looked at nurseries. There was a nursery for sale, plants, that kind of nursery. We got pretty serious on a property tax consulting business. And you're like, well, we come from commercial real estate. We're in Texas. That's the big deal. Yeah. A lot of people spend a lot of money, commercially, especially residentially a little bit. So that's a valuable service. We wanted to go after have-tos, not want-tos. Yeah. We don't want to do something that somebody could discretionarily decide, I'm not buying that anymore. The problem with something like property tax is you start studying it and digging in. You're like, wait a minute, there is some licensing here. And we don't have it. And how do you get it? Yeah. And how does this person run it right now? And what we quickly figured out was that particular owner was doing 90% of their business. And once they were out of the equation, you could not. Yeah. You could not replicate it.
Wow.
So the stucco one was there. And I think Chad and I just kept looking at you like, oh, that sounds terrible. That sounds terrible. And then, but we're like, okay, it's there. The numbers are right. The margins seem really quite healthy. And we're like, it's in Houston. We get a lot of humidity. We get a lot of named storms. It's not a great environment for stucco to hold up, but all of the really high net worth neighborhoods in town.
It's stucco.
Like the previous owner joked with us one time. He goes, nobody builds their dream house with hardy plank. And he's like, you're right. Yeah. So we kept coming back to it. They had, and this is the other interesting thing that I think it should be encouraging for first time buyers or whatever, is what we discovered, and we had heard this and we lived it out, is as little as we felt like we knew, every search we were doing, we were ending up people's first choice. Because what we were doing is we'd go in and we'd ask questions about them and how did it, and what they were seeing a lot of, nothing against PE, but it was PE like people. It was like numbers. And these are very personal businesses, people. Yeah. And so they want to know, how is this going to be stewarded?
Yeah. Are you going to take care of my people?
Are you going to take care of this little baby of mine? And so we would try to ask questions. Chad's super empathetic. Yeah. I try to be that way as well. And even not being the highest price offered, people like, I think I could trust you to do that. So I think we were fortunate, from what I can tell, that we were coming in behind some of those other failed attempts. By the time we got to the stucco, they were motivated, to make it work, and we were trying to be good students. But stucco was never on the, but it's people oriented. And I think,
very much.
It's very personal. And so relationships become critical, and you have to establish those really quickly with people to be able to go in and have them trust you to tear off the front of their house and put it all back together.
Wow.
Well, so I feel like based off of everything that you've said, we need to reframe the name of this episode to how to buy a boring boomer business.
Right. Amen.
Because honestly, you should only be buying a boring boomer business right now. And if I can go with the alliteration, the boring boomer blue collar business, because it's safe. Blue collar is not going to be affected by all of the changes going on in the world around us right now.
We joke about it often here that good business is boring.
Preach it.
Like, but in the sense of like, it isn't even though we're a digital marketing agency, like most of our best relationships are just that. Like it's the boring stuff. It's the consistency of, I'm going to keep calling them. I'm going to keep showing up at the door. Right. I mean, and you have a military background. Like it is the boring, mundane things that grow change and grow companies. And I think we've got a younger generation coming up that is so excited about making their YouTube, TikTok, sensational e-commerce, AI brand, whatever. Right. And I know it's a bit of a tangent in here, but you guys kind of took the path of least resistance in many ways to figure this boring business out. Just while we're here, and because you've got kids and kids that are growing and kids, we've got younger entrepreneurs listening to the show. What would you recommend in the pursuit of boring business versus trying to go after sort of the sexy next big thing? What would you recommend just in that process for people considering?
I think when you're transitioning from what I'll call white collar to gray collar, blue collar, whatever, I think you have to kind of appreciate and understand and really study, and just from a human to human standpoint, what are you stepping into emotionally? Because there's kind of a psychology to it that I think we have really started to understand better and learn, and the interaction with crews and the interaction with peers and competitors. We've realized we were the first. This company was the first one to exit within this little niche stucco repair space. So everybody's super curious, like, well, what's going to happen here? What are we've generally been called good names, but a couple of, I think somebody called us tech bros one time. So we had a guy,
nice.
We have on our wall an AI generated version of ourselves as stucco tech bros. So I think you have to be willing to figuratively, literally, get your hands dirty. For us, it wasn't going to ever be, we're old farts with bad backs and scared of heights. So we're like literally the worst possible guys to buy this if you're actually going to do the work. But you have to appreciate the work that's getting done.
Yeah.
Be really thoughtful, I think, in the approach with the people you're working for and the people that are working for you. If that kind of touches on it, because it is different, because everybody hears that and goes, oh, I'm going to jump in. But most people are probably like us and have not actually worked in that. We've had and worked around it, and it's not bad, but you really have to kind of, let's learn this. Let's figure out what matters. The people that are doing the work and vice versa.
Man, you bought a people business.
That's right.
So walk me through, if you can, and I'll just take it one step at a time. So the first 90 days, you said that you ran into some challenges. It was not as good as you thought it was going to be. What was the people component like in that period of time?
So the challenges related to people is, again, I don't know that most boomers are really emotionally ready to let go, which is when you're underwriting, you've got to figure that out right away, because you will start, if you get to a certain phase, you're going to start burning through pursuit cost that you can't get back. And if you get all the way to the end and you forgot to ask a couple key questions and they go, you know what, just kidding, I'm not ready to sell this. You just lost 3 months, you just lost, whatever.
All the legal fees.
But even when you get all the way through that process and you close and everything, and they're high-fiving each other and they're excited, you're now scared, or you're nervous because you're like, now I got to make this work.
Yeah.
And it's in, the transition agreements, those become really important. The non-compete, non-solicitation, all that stuff. So you don't end up crossing into each other. But you also have, how are we going to work together? How long are we going to work together? And how are we going to compensate you to work with us?
Yeah.
And so at least in our case, we knew it going up. I would generally say equity carrier or something is probably the most obvious way to make sure you're aligned and the things you want to do become the things they want to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't have that. And so we knew that. So that quickly makes it challenging, because you've got to make changes in order to make this thing start doing what it needs to do. And you've had those mapped out, and you haven't necessarily needed to or shared that with the previous owners. And at some point, at least for us, and I've heard this over and over again, you're starting to call their sister ugly, right? And at some point, a good example is, we just knew from, there's some things we knew how to do and we're comfortable doing that we didn't need to know stucco is, what our audience and the website and the way we're going to message and the things that we're going to do, we're homeowners. And I know, and we know, we were executives that had to make these decisions on our homes. And this is what I was busy and I didn't have time, but I had resources, this is what I'd want. And this is what I'd want the website to do. And so at first you're like, well, we're going to be nice and make a little tweak and work with their IT or their web builder. And, we got into that in a few months. We're like, we're not getting it.
We got to redo everything.
And I'm making phone calls. We're like, new website in 2 weeks. Boom. Because we got to do it. And then you got to turn around and explain that, to this recent owner of the same thing. What was wrong with that? I just did it. You're like, no, it's great. We're not doing it. We're not, sorry. So it's just that evolution, and you're trying to massage that at the same time, trying to learn the business and have them coach you on that because they know more than you. And it's just, we talk about tension. That was a hard tension to manage.
How long was the coaching transition?
We had a 6-month agreement.
Okay.
And Chad and I pretty much finished each other's sentences. If you had us both here, I'd say first 3 months we're okay. I'd say the last 3 months were incredibly challenging.
Yeah. Because that was that point that after those first 9 days, you guys were starting to go, we got to change some big things.
Yeah, we had to, and they're not sure why. We had to, there's low hanging fruit. So I've never forgotten that really short advice I got in Kosovo, fake till you make it. I mean, that's not terrible advice. You got to make it, but you are going to have to, give the illusion for a minute while you're figuring it out.
Yeah. Be decisive, even if you don't know if it's the right decision.
Right. And so, but you also don't understand the business. There's things you need to learn, and then you're finding out just maybe some nuances about the way you're going to want to do things in the business that are philosophically off. Yeah. And you're like, I don't really want to make 3 months and have this kind of come back on us, but I also, want to be respectful of the way this is a successful business. We didn't buy a turnaround. Yeah. It's just a different philosophy, but there's some very technical things about this business we don't understand. We're trying to figure out.
Wow. So would you say that the issues could have been overcome and avoided, I should say, if you had done things different before you acquired it?
I think, we had originally set out to go, let's go figure out what it looks like to get one. And then, because the one thing we quickly figured out and we still believe in is there's nothing for the most part, we've ever done specific to the stucco that you couldn't rinse and repeat on almost every other business we underwrote. Because a lot of it's just how you structure, when you make decisions, how you make decisions. So I think there are things in hindsight you go, okay, we could now be more assertive because we'd be more confident. We're not you wouldn't be a first-time buyer. So I don't know I think you just have to, I would just say, stay really flexible, give yourself a lot of grace. Yeah. Know that, and again, it was more of a startup in some ways than not. This was 2 owners that ran this business through all subcontracted crews. We brought on 3 people that had never been part of that organization, so that we could work on the business and not get trapped working just in the business because we knew we couldn't grow it.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want to buy a job.
And that's the risk. Yeah. And I think I still, EOS and some of these models of framework is really, it's a tricky deal because you're asked to very specific, especially as partners wear 2 hats. Yeah. With the way we set it up, which is, let's have a partner meeting. Okay, what's that meeting? That's the meeting where we're 50-50 owners in this investment.
You're in the owner's box.
In the owner's box. Yeah. And then we have jobs that we need to do for the day-to-day, and that role may be slightly different. I may have to ask you to, something about accounting. You may have to ask me something about marketing, and it is nothing to do with, we still are 50-50 partners. And that's, 2 years in, that is such a massive... There's, such a massive transition from corporate to that world where, and I think, inherent to that is also the idea that we said from day one, let's make this sellable. And it goes, I think in some ways so against the grain of everything you think you've learned in corporate, which is I have a very specific job. The more I get into this job, the more I know, the more valuable I am to the organization. I'm digging in, I'm getting in. And part of that's the trap, for me, that you wake up one day and you're getting up at 3 and going to bed at whatever. You're like, I'm a wreck because I've just bought in all in on this thing. Yeah. Whereas when you buy something, you bought it for freedom and flexibility, not to screw around, but to go pursue and do other things. Sure. And the idea that you're intentionally making moves to make this thing function without the need for you day to day, it just kind of is mind blowing. Yeah. When you've been in that corporate world for so long.
So it makes me just very curious, since that is the trajectory for you and Chad, and you're still building a team and a culture in that. I mean, it's not like you guys are hiding behind the fact that you'd like to sell at some point. Yeah. What does that trajectory look like right now, and how different is it currently from what you thought it was going to be?
What I realized somewhere in between this, we were talking to a ton of people, a ton of entrepreneurs, and you're going, man, I like this story. And it's not sellable, because I always have to be careful. The people I'm working with are like, oh crap, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's like, no, if we're moving towards sellable, then it's always going to be optimized.
Yeah.
And it's always going to provide, max flexibility and optionality for whatever.
Right. As a team member, the goal is that you still have a job,
right, with
progression.
Yeah. But, in that space where you're trying to craft it and get it going, it's, the trick is really, being able to dig into the day to day. But what I was finding with these people in 10 years or that I was talking to is you're like, oh shoot, you're 10 years down the road. And I'm super frustrated today because we've only owned this thing a year.
Mm.
And I kept hearing this theme over and over again. They're like, hey, dude, the first 3 years, the first 5 years. Mm. And so Chad and I, have had to take a lot of deep breaths and been like, okay. And I think we've also had to celebrate the small wins, because I tend to be, even personally and stuff, I'm not knowing it or recognizing it, really a fixer. So I just see the world through the lens of
what needs to be
problems.
fixed. Yeah. Problems.
And that can be dangerous, because what you do is you just kind of bury everybody around you. Mm-hmm. And they go, gosh, it's never good enough. It's never, and like I said, even at home, my wife's had to remind me that. And so you kind of have to step out of this thing periodically. That was a good interaction. That was a good outcome.
Yeah.
That was, we're not, world beaters yet, but let's celebrate that moment. Let's celebrate the way that house got fixed.
Love it.
So essentially what we saw when you bought this business is you rocked the boat. You shook things loose, you rocked the boat. What signals did you see that told you, hey, the business is stabilizing a little bit? Because you were experiencing those challenges in year one. And I guess for anyone who is maybe in that first year right now listening in on this, what are some signs of hope that things are starting to turn around? Is it exclusively going to be shown on the P&L, or did you see it in other areas?
I think there was a low point, remarkably candid, hopefully. I think it was January, so we hadn't done it very long. We're in the middle of that transition, and it does have some seasonality to it. Yeah. So the weather's good, you do more stucco repair in the winter. People, again, tend not to want their house torn up during the holidays, and so that was part of it. And, that's also the challenge of a lot of these businesses. If, you don't study that and recognize that and go, like we did, we closed honestly right at the end of their peak. So
numbers
were
looking up.
Yeah.
Man. Okay.
Well, and you're also at the end of their, peak cash flow. So you're rocking into this thing. And so in the perfect world, we would have closed in April.
And you did an asset buy because it was an SBA loan, right? It wasn't stock?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you walked in with whatever cash you brought with you.
Oh, yeah. And they had no assets. It was a simple business in some ways. The work they did, it was 2 to 3 week jobs, subcontracted crews who had all the material they needed or the equipment. We would buy the material on the front edge, get paid 50% up front. That's still the way that works. So you
just bought the cash flow. That's what you bought.
Wow.
And as soon as you closed, the cash flow disappeared.
Well, it just went through its natural lull while you're trying to learn the business, while you're trying, truly fix the plane while it's flying kind of stuff. And so, that January, I remember, Chad grabs me because he's handling all the banking relationships. And he's like, dude, our loan note just bounced. We got to have a cash call. And I remember just kind of my heart, it was like, what? And so that was then. And then we get to March. And I would say, the answer to your question is, we end up, and we still, that number for January, we still have on the board. Like we by God's grace, we took out of that thing.
Yeah.
And so I would say our transition agreement ended Marchish, let's call it March. And we still have that date. And then you get a month into it and 2 months. And for us, that break was a break. I mean, it was never heard from him again. Like you're totally on your own.
He is retired, or they are retired.
Gone. Yeah. God bless them. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for them. That's what people want. So, but I'd say as we got into that next summer and we go, that was us. That was us. Like they're we're not talking massive wins. I'd say even today, we're just now, I would say, to your original question about, when do you feel like stabilized? we're, just now getting to a place, I would say, where you go, oh, I can see how and where this grows. I can see now execution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've gotten and worked our way into coaching and stuff like that. That's another animal. But the idea that you go, okay, there's the training wheels are off. Like this is us. Like it's, beat or get beat.
Yeah. So good. I am a little concerned right now because I have way too many questions and way little time left in this episode, but this is so good. And I know that the audience listening in, if you guys have found a business and you're looking at acquiring it, or if you've got that seed capital and you're ready to start the process, I really hope that y'all can just press rewind and listen to everything Mike just shared, because there is so much value in this. Buying a business is fantastic. You should definitely do it if you are ready to be the master of your own destiny, where if you win, you can say, I won. It wasn't on somebody else's back. I won because I hustled, I worked, I made it happen. But if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. Not everyone is made for the levels of stress that come with owning a business.
Yeah.
But I've got a series of questions that I'd love to rapid fire at you. Unless, do you have any that you want to
dive right in?
Okay.
Dive right in. This makes me think. We were just talking to some friends about this. Everyone wants to own a business. No one wants to fire people.
Oof.
And
bring it. You take it, man. You take it.
So inevitably, maybe to kick off some of your questions, what was one of the outside of business transitions, partnerships, and what was the hardest first thing that you guys had to do as it related to the work, the product you were offering?
It was related to the cruise. So again, subcontracted, but again, we treated and think of them really as employees. But when and that was a lot of what we were buying. It's the goodwill of this 20-year history of the company, and then the quality or the work that's being done by these subcontracted crews that, again, in that underwriting and that due diligence process, by design, it shouldn't happen for a lot of obvious reasons, but you have no access to them. And, that has the potential to really ruin the business, derail the transaction. There's just a certain amount of people that can even get brought into the knowledge that that's even going on. So we literally closed and had lunch with these, essentially our bread and butter for the next, and they had, they're their own companies, but they had managed to meet each other in the parking lot on the way in. So Chad and I are like, okay, this is it. And first thing they go, somebody had been deemed the spokesman. He said, we're not making enough money. And Chad and I are like,
oh gosh,
there goes the margin.
Oh gosh,
my goodness,
that is hard.
And we had one of our new employees who's quite younger, and really it's one of her first experiences, and she's getting wide-eyed like, oh wow, what are the guys going to do? And so we kind of worked through that. And then of those 5 crews, which that was it. I mean, that was the bread and butter. We couldn't imagine how this thing was going to work. We lost 3 of them within the first 6 months. 2 of them just ended up, we realized a lot of our warranty calls and just the quality of the work and just frankly not telling us the truth about stuff. But that's just not. And we kind of led with our values on the website. Like we have, and we've gotten, we put faith out there. We put and you got to live them, right? I mean,
right.
And then from there, you go, okay, man, it's hard to hit your numbers if you're down cruising. And again, labor in general is a challenge, right? I mean, it really doesn't matter in today's world. I think everybody that I talk to that's business, whether it's employee or whatever it is labor's hard to find.
Yeah.
And if you're in labor, you're like, man, good places are hard to find to work for. So this matchmaking is really challenging. So, that was kind of gut wrench, and you're like, what are we gonna do? How's that conversation gonna go? And, it's again, it's a different demographic profile than we've typically spent our careers working with. It's like, how do I relate to them? How do I not come off as just you don't know how strapped we really are right now. It's not what you think. We're not a PE shop. This is like, we've thrown everything on the table here. It's
here are my families, and by you taking more money, little Johnny's not going to eat tomorrow. I hope you're okay with it. But seriously, though,
you alluded to it. I think that's the other thing to keep in mind is we both had to make sure our wives were ready for the ride. And to
that's
be
a whole nother
frank,
podcast episode
both
right
of
there.
our wives have gone back to work.
Yeah.
So it's not all perfect.
Yeah.
And we've had to, continue to make challenging decisions to just reaffirm our commitment to making this thing work.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And they've had to make massive sacrifices and be very supportive
That's
for us to
awesome.
do that.
Wow.
I love it.
Okay, so you follow EOS, right? That's y'all are integrating that in some respect.
In some shape
okay.
or form. Yeah,
Okay.
not formally. We've got another coach scaling, which is helping us.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Got it. So one thing that I think a lot of business owners struggle with is knowing if they're winning or not, because to your point, a lot of us, we're out there saying, that's a nail. I'm gonna hit that nail because that's a problem and that needs to be fixed. And so it just feels like, oh my gosh, there's only problems. How do you know if you're winning? And have you set what the goal line looks like to score a touchdown?
I think recently we've done a better job.
Okay.
I think it's very easy, and it's been very easy for us to get caught in what I'd say the tactical and kind of quickly forget about the strategic.
Yeah.
So when you have a month like I described, you're in survival mode. It's like, man, we just got to get one more job. Might even be a terrible job. Let's go let's go get this job to make it work.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, you're like, okay, let's think out. Yes, we may have to take that job we don't want to, or we're taking better and better jobs. The feedback loop is really helpful.
Yeah.
So again, some of those more nuanced things, which neither one of us had lived in, the SEO and the Google ads and the Google reviews. And I never thought I'd be this interested in Google reviews.
Yeah.
But that feedback, and then you just wake up one day and you're like, our brand's starting to build. Like our brand's, even within the last few weeks, we've been a residential stucco repair company and getting pushed and prodded by our new coach. And we've been getting all these inbound commercial requests.
Ooh, I like
Colorado, people working in Houston, but don't know Houston, and our name popped up. And then they looked at the website and they go, man, very good descriptions, and this is helpful. And so you go, wait, okay, there could be a strategy. I think the danger is you chase rainbows if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate in that we didn't inherit a business that did 10 things and they really should have been doing 2. We almost the opposite about a business that did 1 thing.
Yeah.
And it probably needs to do 1 or 2 others.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get
to help with the seasonality, to help with the
that's where partnerships can be challenging, because two guys who've worked together grand total of 2 years on this thing with a lot of intensity, with very different ways of looking at the world, and going, we've got to get into alignment really quick before we just don't have time and the capital to just make really bad long-term choices on this stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Love it.
So
Love
good.
it.
I
Mike,
love it.
this has been so insightful, so powerful, and I really appreciate you being here, walking us through this. And offline, I need to talk to you because I've got some stucco repair that I need done on my house.
Brand new build.
So we're going to talk.
There we
We're
go.
going to talk.
There we go.
As we wrap up a lot of our episodes, we have this through line where our previous guest leaves you a question. And so I'm going to ask you their question, but I also want you to think about a question for the next guest. And we've just found this to be really fun. And so our last guest asked for you, what is one thing that you know now that you wish you knew 10 years ago, and
that you would have taught yourself.
or that you would have taught yourself. So what's one thing you know now that you wish you had taught yourself 10 years ago, and that you can, and what can you still do about it?
I mean, it's kind of probably too much along the lines of what we've been talking about, but taking chances and bold moves sooner in life it's weird, because you just feel suffocated. Your kids are younger. You're just overwhelmed by everything. You feel financially just strapped, and your career's starting to take off. So you've seen a little bit of bump, but man, if I could go back, I don't know that I'd change it, because I got really good at, there's a lot of good stuff that was going on, and I think each of us is gifted with a unique path that God wants us to be on. But I wish I had a little more courage a little sooner, because I let, kind of knew for several years that I need to make a move. I can't, the golden handcuffs, right? I mean, it's just, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers it, but
what are you going to do about it now with all that in mind?
I'm sitting here hopefully encouraging somebody watching. I'm paying that forward.
Yeah,
and
good.
I've tried to do that, as much as I can. And,
Yeah.
and then I'm living out and not waiting until, my dad got cancer at 60 and he passed away at 66. And so I've used 60 as a mile marker and I'm 48. And I've said, just a sense of urgency in life.
Yeah.
I've tried to bring that to the table. So I'd say, what are you doing now?
Go after it, yeah.
Had an idea for a book, wrote two. Just whatever's on my mind
Good.
now that has got some wholesome, hopefully,
I love it.
good trajectory. Don't wait on it. Go for it.
So good.
So good. What is one thing you would like to ask our next guest?
Man.
Any spectrum.
Yeah.
You can make it a fun one too.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking fun because
We've had a lot of deep ones. Yeah, no, we've had a lot of deep ones. You can go fun.
I get asked this a lot, like by my family, because we travel and like dream place to go. Like,
Yeah.
What is your dream place to
and
go?
it's hard because you start bouncing around, but I'm always curious what people.
Okay.
Dream place to go.
Yeah,
What is your dream place to go?
So Iceland has ended up on my list because I've had a lot of people go
Nice.
there in the summer and mountain bike and do a lot of outdoor stuff.
Yeah.
so,
And that's on my list too.
yeah,
And ice stucco, of course.
that's right. That's right.
There's some transition. Oh, man.
Absolutely love it. Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Jinx. That
was good.
That was really good. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Good Business. If this was impactful to you, or if you feel like it would be impactful to a friend, a relative, another coworker, or maybe a business partner, please share this episode. The only way this episode gets out is because of you. Yep. So please share it with a friend, shoot him a text, say, you got to listen to this. Mike knows what he's talking about. We can walk this path. Because I know I'm encouraged by this. I know you're encouraged by this. So if you like this episode, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe so you can be able to tune in to future episodes of Good Business. And we'll see you guys next time.